I always thought the cold helped people think clearer. Must be the crisp air or how snow muffles everything but your own thoughts. That's what I believed, anyway, right up until my wife told me she needed a weekend alone at the cabin. Just to clear my head, she said. I need to write. Disconnect a bit. It wasn't an odd request, not on the surface. Maddie had been going through what she called a creative dry spell. She wrote freelance travel blogs, pieces about boutique destinations and cozy escapes that made readers dream about warm fireplaces and vintage wine. And our place up in Tahoe, that was the perfect Pinterest daydream. Knotty pine everything. A stone hearth. Floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the pines like a postcard. We'd built it together, not physically, of course, but it was a shared vision. We even installed RFID keypads and synced it with the ski resort system for convenience. Everything logged. Everything efficient. That efficiency is probably what ended up unraveling things. She packed Thursday evening. Said she wanted to beat the Friday snowstorm. Left me with a quick kiss on the cheek and a "don't wait up" laugh. I watched her taillights disappear down our cul-de-sac, snowflakes starting to swirl in the beam of the street lamp. For a moment, I felt proud, supportive husband to an adventurous, driven woman. But that pride didn't last long, because Maddie made one mistake. She used our joint card at the gas station that night, in a town the long way around from Tahoe, a town that was near nothing, unless you were picking someone up at the regional airport. At first, I brushed it off. Thought maybe she was just craving a specific kind of coffee or wanted a detour. But then came the lodge charges. 2 ski passes scanned at the same lift within minutes of each other. 1 champagne room rental on Saturday night. The kind of add-on we'd splurged on together once, for our 5th anniversary. The receipts came through my monthly report notifications like clockwork. See, I managed the cabin's finances. HOA dues, utilities, logs, the whole spreadsheet-loving package. I like data. I trust numbers more than I trust vibes. So I checked the RFID lock log. 2 entries on Saturday. Hers and 1 other card. A guest card. One I didn't issue. The cabin's smart lock system recorded the exact entry time. 6:41 p.m. Saturday night. Same night as the champagne room. That was the moment I stopped brushing things off. I didn't scream. Didn't confront. I'm not wired that way. My hands shook a bit, sure, but I clicked through each page of that management portal with the same calm I use when closing out our taxes. Then I checked the weather forecast for the following week and smiled. We'd been meaning to host the HOA board for a tour of the upgrades we made over the past year. A new heating unit, refinished deck, smart blinds. I'd already drafted the email to invite them. I just hadn't hit send. Yet. By Monday, Maddie was back. She breezed and wearing a new scarf, eyes bright from unplugging. Said the snowfall had been perfect. I wrote so much, she told me as she set her bag down by the door. It was like the solitude just poured it out of me. I nodded and smiled. Glad to hear it. Must have been good for the soul. She leaned in to kiss me, and I caught a faint scent. Not her usual woodsy perfume. This one was sharper, cologne-like. I didn't flinch, but my stomach did a slow roll. Oh, I added casually. I'm thinking of having the HOA board over for a little cabin showcase. End of the week. Give them a tour, show off the upgrades. That cool? Her expression faltered just a hair. Just long enough to catch if you were looking. Then it returned. Yeah, that sounds great. Just make sure it's clean. I nodded again. Already handled. She never asked if I'd gone up myself. Didn't even blink. By Thursday, I had it already. I synced the smart TV to the lodge's guest report system, something I had access to because I'd helped them digitize HOA communications 2 years ago. I'd been the tech guy on the board, the one who always fixed the Wi-Fi during ski season when the other members couldn't figure out the router. The system displayed guest name logs, rental additions, activity timelines. Nothing private, unless you paired it with keycard logs from a privately owned cabin, which I did. I even added a little flair, made a slideshow. I called it Winter Usage Metrics and Cabin Experience, Q1. She saw me tweaking it Thursday night and walked right past me with a glass of wine, humming. Still working? She asked. Just the usual, I replied. Metrics. Charts. You know me. She didn't even look at the screen. Friday evening, the board arrived. Maddie played hostess with practiced charm, pouring wine, pointing out the pine ceiling we'd refinished, giving tours of the guest loft. It was almost enough to make me question things. Maybe I'd misread. Maybe she had a friend with a pass. Maybe. But then I heard her voice catch as she stepped into the living room and saw the slide on the TV. Guest card use. Saturday, 6:41 p.m., cabin entry. Champagne room reservation. 8:13 p.m. Under, Jason L. Jason Lenz. Her ex from college. The one who couldn't commit, who moved to Denver and ghosted her, who had zero future, in her words. He also just happened to be listed as a frequent companion on the lodge's reservation history under her ski pass. The room went silent. Someone coughed. I clicked to the next slide. A candid photo of the cabin hallway, time-stamped. Two silhouettes. One clearly taller than me. Maddie froze. I looked at the board president, smiled politely. We try to keep the space cozy and welcoming, but also secure. Everything's tracked and logged. That's how we caught an unexpected guest last weekend. A few board members exchanged glances. Maddie opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I turned off the TV. And on a personal note, I added casually, "This'll be the last winter we're offering the cabin. It's been lovely, but time for a change. Already found a buyer. She's got an eye for mountain properties." Maddie finally managed a word. "Wait, what?" I looked at her and smiled. Not cruelly, just like a man who's accepted the math. "You know her, I think." Jason's wife. The drive back from the cabin that night was so quiet you could have heard a snowflake hit the dashboard. Maddie didn't say a word for the first hour. Not while we packed up the wine glasses. Not when she got in the car. Not when the icy mountain roads curved down into the valley. But I could feel it. That heavy storm of emotion brewing beside me. Not guilt. No, Maddie didn't operate like that. She was a calculator. Always weighing optics, outcomes, how to stay in control. And this was a glitch in her code. She finally spoke when we hit a gas station halfway home. "That was low," she said, her voice sharp but brittle. I didn't look at her. Just kept pumping gas. "Which part? The data presentation or the part where your ex's name showed up in our champagne room history?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. But she recovered fast. "You blindsided me," she hissed. "In front of strangers. You humiliated me." I capped the tank and walked around to the driver's side. "You humiliated yourself." I just made sure the mirror was clean enough to see it. The thing about Maddie was, she was good at the long game. We met in grad school. I was working part-time at the student IT help desk. She needed someone to fix her external hard drive. It was fried, totally unrecoverable. She didn't get mad. She smiled, shrugged, asked if I liked Thai food. That's how she worked. Smooth, casual, tactical. She played chess in conversations, always thinking 2 moves ahead. And I admired it, honestly. It made me feel like I was part of something strategic. But now I saw that strategy had always included me, just not in the way I thought. By Sunday, she'd flipped her script. She was hurt. She couldn't believe I would sabotage our standing in the HOA. She said I was vindictive, paranoid, and manipulative. I didn't yell, didn't argue, just nodded. Let her pace the living room like a performance artist in a monologue about trust and control. But she made one mistake. She kept talking. "I only saw him once," she claimed, sitting on the edge of the couch, twisting her fingers. "He was skiing with a friend. It was random. We ran into each other at the lodge cafe. We caught up. That's all." I stared at her like I was watching a car try to reverse out of a canyon. "The champagne room was reserved under his name," I said. "Your ski pass scanned into the lodge spa that same night. And both passes hit the same lift together that morning." Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "You hacked into the lodge's system?" "No. We have access. HOA admin portal. I built the reporting plugin last year. Remember?" She blinked, and I swear, I saw the precise moment she recalculated her odds of denial. The bluff wasn't going to land. She folded. "Fine," she snapped. "Yes. We talked. We had dinner. I needed clarity." Clarity. Her voice shook now, but it wasn't sadness. It was fury. At being caught. At losing the upper hand. I needed to remember why I chose you. Why I didn't choose him. That's all it was. I laughed, actually laughed. Short, sharp, humorless. "You picked me like a hedge fund picks safe stocks. Low volatility. Predictable returns." Her face hardened. "You think you're some victim here? You built a digital trap and waited for me to walk into it. That's not love. That's surveillance." I stood. Calm. Cold. That's accountability. That week, I finalized the paperwork to sell the cabin. It wasn't just about the property. It was about removing the set piece where the lie played out. The champagne room, the hot tub, the cozy reading nook where she probably read him passages from whatever draft she claimed to be working on. I sold it to a woman named Claire. Claire Lenz, Jason's wife. I'd found her via a reverse directory after I pulled Jason's full name from the lodge logs. Took me 10 minutes. I'd sent her a polite message. Hi Claire. This might sound strange, but I'm selling our winter cabin. I understand your husband Jason is familiar with the property. I thought you might want a tour before it hits the market. She replied the next day. Oh, I'd love a tour. Claire and I met over coffee 2 days later. She was composed, surgical in her words. The kind of woman who wears tailored coats and asks for black coffee with lemon. She didn't blink when I slid a folder across the table containing the resort guest logs, lodge receipts, and time-stamped photos from the cabin's security camera. Looks like your husband's been doing some off-piste activities, I said dryly. Claire looked through the folder slowly, then closed it. She smiled, not kindly. He did the same thing to his first wife, she said. I shouldn't be surprised. I told myself I could fix him. I raised an eyebrow. You still want the cabin? Oh, she said, nodding. Especially now. We shook hands. No emotion, just mutual understanding, and a shared need to reclaim something. Back home, Maddie hadn't unpacked her emotional toolbox yet. She was still in damage control mode, pretending nothing had changed. So I dropped the final card. By the way, I said one night while we were brushing our teeth, the cabin's sold. She turned, foam still on her lips. You're kidding. Nope. Done deal. Should close by Friday. To who? I smiled, rinsed my mouth, and said, Claire. You know, Jason's wife. Her toothbrush hit the sink. I walked past her, towel over my shoulder, and added, I left the wine glasses. Figured she'd appreciate the ambience. It didn't take long after the cabin sale for Maddie to pivot from anger to suspicion. I could see it in the way she hovered in the kitchen, arms crossed, phone clutched like a lifeline. She'd say things like, it's just weird that you'd sell it without talking to me first, even though she'd already lost any right to the moral high ground. That Tuesday night, she cornered me while I was chopping onions. You did this to humiliate me, didn't you? I didn't stop chopping. No, I said. That part was just a bonus. She let out a bitter laugh. You think you're so clever, but you're not some mastermind. You're just bitter. That word landed differently. Bitter. As if betrayal was something that should roll off me like water off a duck's back. I'm not bitter, I said slowly. I'm awake. There's a difference. She didn't respond. She just grabbed her wine glass, filled it a little too full, and left the room. But here's the thing about Maddie. She doesn't let go easily. I think that's part of what made her such a good CEO. Once she's claimed something, a project, a relationship, a narrative, she treats it like territory. She doesn't just walk away. She strategizes. She recalibrates. She finds the next angle. That weekend, she tried playing the nostalgia card. I was looking at old pictures, she said, sliding her phone across the table. Remember this one? It was us, year 1, ski lodge, grinning like idiots. I had goggles on my forehead. She had that red beanie I used to tease her about. We were happy, she said quietly. I nodded. Before you started rewriting our vows in a champagne room with your ex. She winced. You don't have to keep saying it like that. Like what? I said, accurately. A few days later, I noticed something odd. Her laptop was suddenly password locked. She hadn't done that in years. Her phone was always face down now. Not just during dinner, all the time. She started taking calls outside, saying things like just work stuff and legal contracts and nothing you'd be interested in. I knew that playbook. It was the same one she used before the cabin trip. So I got curious. Not desperate. Not jealous. Just curious. And the one thing Maddie never counted on? I taught her everything she knows about tech. We used to joke that I was her in-house IT guy. I built her company's internal security framework. I showed her how to encrypt her files. I even installed the mesh network she used to run the cabin Wi-Fi. So it didn't take much to notice the signs. She'd started using a second email address, a burner Gmail, masked under her business domain. And while I didn't snoop directly, I'm not stupid, I did have access to the home router logs. One MAC address had been active during hours when she swore she was at work, and it wasn't hers. It was a phone. Android. Someone else. It had connected to our network from the driveway. 3 times. Always on a Thursday. Just long enough to drop her off or pick her up. I didn't confront her. Instead, I waited. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney. Not to file anything yet, just to get the ball rolling. Understand my options. See how deep the ice went before I jumped. And then I made a decision. If Maddie wanted to play games on the slopes, I'd meet her at the summit. I started planning something subtle. Not explosive. Not like the HOA reveal. This time, I wanted something quieter. Something that would make her feel it. I called Claire, Jason's wife, and asked if she'd be willing to stage a little cabin-warming photo series. Nothing crazy. Just a few shots of her and her kids on the porch. Hot cocoa. Fire pit. The kind of pictures you post to social when you want the world to know you're doing great. She didn't even hesitate. "Oh," she said, "I've already got the caption." The next morning, I accidentally left my iPad open on the kitchen table. Maddie saw it, scrolled through it, paused when she saw Claire's Instagram and the tag location, formerly ours. She blinked, paused. Then she turned to me and said, "You're playing dirty." I smiled. "No," I said. "You just don't like it when someone else knows the rules." Maddie didn't slam doors. That wasn't her style. She weaponized silence. After seeing Claire's formerly ours post on Instagram, she didn't speak to me for nearly 3 days. She moved through the house like a ghost. Not angry, just hollow. Not quite sulking, not quite plotting. But you could tell the gears were grinding behind her eyes. She still made coffee in the morning. Still sent herself flowers from the team at work. But she didn't so much as glance at me unless she had to. I welcomed it. Silence was a relief after the last few months of half-truths and dodge questions. Of watching her lie with a smile. Of second-guessing everything from what time she left for work to what was really in her writing journal. She could be mad. She could be silent. But she couldn't be trusted. Not anymore. I spent that weekend at my buddy Dave's house, just to clear my head. He's one of the few people who knew the full story about the cabin, the ski passes, the champagne room, the HOA presentation. He handed me a beer without a word, like guys do when "I'm sorry" isn't enough, but "let's drink" gets the job done. We sat by his fire pit, not saying much. Eventually, he asked, "What are you going to do now?" "I'm not sure," I said. "Half of me wants to just walk away. File the papers, cut the cord, be done with it. And the other half," I said, "wants her to feel it. Not just lose. Lose with clarity." Dave nodded. Then he said something I'll never forget. Justice and closure aren't always the same thing. The following week, Maddie made her move. I came home from work on Tuesday and found her in the living room, dressed like she was going to a dinner party, black dress, makeup, wine glass in hand. The TV was paused on some romantic drama, and soft jazz played from her speaker. "Join me?" she asked coolly. I hesitated, then sat. She poured me a glass without asking. That alone told me she was up to something. Maddie always asked first, not because she was polite, but because she liked control. "I've been thinking," she said. "We've both made mistakes." I held the glass, didn't drink. "Have we?" I asked. She ignored that. "Maybe it's time to take a break. No lawyers. No drama. Just space." She said it like she was offering a peace treaty. I looked at her, calm as I could. Space from what? The marriage or the lies? She blinked. "Does it matter?" That's when I knew. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to reset the narrative, put enough distance between us so she could twist it later. Reframe it. Tell her friends we grew apart. That we tried, but it just didn't work. I wasn't going to let her do that. The next day, I took a little detour during my lunch break. Stopped by the lodge. I'd made friends with the concierge, Mike, a guy who always recognized me by face, not name. "Back for another monthly report?" he asked. "Not this time," I said. "I was wondering if you could help me with something a little more digital." He raised an eyebrow. Maddie's mistake wasn't just the second ski pass. It was the RFID wristband she used. She thought deleting her texts and call logs made her smart. But the lodge's system tracked everything: room access, spa check-ins, restaurant reservations, lift ticket usage, even time spent in the adults-only lounge. "Just a curiosity," I told Mike. "Want to understand how it all syncs." Mike grinned. "It syncs great. Even shows how long you were in each room." He pulled up a guest profile. Not mine. Maddie's. There it was, plain as day. For consecutive weekends. Same cabin. Different name on the second pass every time. And one reservation that caught my eye. Romantic firelight dinner for two, champagne suite. The date? Valentine's Day. We were supposedly on a break that weekend. I took a screenshot. Several, actually. Then I requested a guest statement copy, citing a billing discrepancy. They printed the whole thing. Timestamps, room access, purchases, wristband usage. I slid it into a folder and left it in my trunk. Just in case. Back home, Maddie was in full gaslight mode. She smiled more, cooked more, asked me how my day was, like we were newlyweds again. She even left a note on my pillow one night that said, "I'm still proud of us." Us. As if there was an us left. She wanted to confuse me, blur the lines, keep me in limbo. That's when I decided I wouldn't just end it. I'd define it, once and for all. So I made a plan. Invited her parents over for dinner. Her sister too. Said I wanted to talk about the future. She was nervous, but intrigued. Thought maybe I was going to propose a vow renewal or something equally naive. She dressed up again, pearls this time. Made her famous lemon chicken. Played hostess like she was auditioning for a cooking show. We ate. We laughed. Well, they did. And then I said, "I'd like to show you all something." I turned on the TV, connected my laptop, and cued the slide deck. First slide, a picture of the cabin. Second, our retreat in numbers, a visual journey. Maddie's smile faltered. I flipped through pages like a boardroom analyst. Graphs of guest entries, overlaid ski pass logs, spa usage, timestamp charts. I zoomed in on the Valentine's Day entry. "Now, this one's interesting," I said, clicking for emphasis. "Champagne suite. Romantic dinner." "Odd," I said, because I was home that night, watching Die Hard 2 and eating leftovers. The room went quiet. Maddie's sister shifted in her seat. Her mom put her fork down. Her dad muttered, "Jesus." Maddie stood. "This is a violation," she hissed. "You're invading my privacy." I nodded slowly, kind of like how you invaded my trust. I left the folder on the table, said nothing else, just walked upstairs, packed a bag, and drove to Dave's. She didn't follow. Not that time. Not ever again. There's a strange peace that comes after detonation. Not the quiet before, that's anxiety. Not the bang, that's chaos. But the silence after? That's clarity. Once I walked out and left Maddie standing there, jaw tight, pearls trembling on her collarbone, something inside me shifted. It wasn't anger anymore, or grief, or even vindication. It was something colder, calmer. I wasn't just done loving her. I was done carrying her. She sent 3 texts that night, all of them cold. "You've embarrassed me in front of my family. I hope that was worth it. When you're ready to act like an adult, we can talk. Please don't contact my parents. They're not part of this." I didn't respond. The next morning, I blocked her number. Dave and I sat on his porch, coffee in hand, as the sun came up over his backyard. He glanced over and said, "You ready for what comes next?" "Not really," I admitted. "But I'm more ready than I was yesterday." The thing about relationships is, you think they're made of memories. But really, they're made of shared versions of memories. And Maddie had spent years rewriting ours, subtly, strategically. She used to say things like, "Remember how you forgot our anniversary that year?" I hadn't. "Remember how I planned all our trips?" She hadn't. "Remember how supportive I was when you lost your job?" She wasn't. She was a curator of selective nostalgia, always editing, always in control. So now, it was my turn. I called my realtor. The cabin had been in my family for years, passed down from my grandfather. I was the last living Sullivan with any legal claim to it. It wasn't just real estate, it was legacy. But legacy means nothing when it's poisoned. So I sold it. Not out of spite. Out of strategy. I had the listing agent reach out to a short list of potential buyers who'd expressed interest in our area over the years. One of them stood out. Claire, Eric's wife. She'd commented once at an HOA meeting that she always loved the Sullivan property. Said she dreamed of having a writing retreat up there someday. I gave her a call. "I thought you guys were keeping it," she said, surprised. "There's been a change in plans," I told her. Interested. There was a pause. Then she said, "Very." The paperwork moved faster than I expected. She was motivated. All cash, no contingencies. And I made one request. That she keep the closing date private. Just until after the next HOA cabin tour. Because yes, that was still happening. Maddie didn't say a word for 10 days. No calls. No texts. No emails. Then, out of nowhere, she sent me an invite. Annual cabin showcase. RSVP by Friday. Same event as every year. Same crowd. Same charade. I clicked yes. The drive up was surreal. Snow was falling in soft, powdery flakes. The road was clear, but my thoughts were muddy. This was the last time I'd ever stepped foot in that cabin as an owner. But I wasn't sad, because I wasn't walking into our cabin. I was walking into her lie, and I was going to burn it down. I arrived early, as planned. Brought my own projector this time. Different from the Lodge one. Smaller, sleeker, already preloaded. I set it up in the living room while Maddie flitted around with wine glasses and pine-scented candles, pretending we were still married for the sake of optics. "You look well," she said, like a dentist complimenting a patient's flossing. "You look busy," I replied. We didn't speak after that. Guests started arriving around 6. HOA board members, neighboring cabin owners, a few couples we knew from ski trips past. Everyone laughed, admired the decor, complimented the ambience. Eric wasn't there, but Claire was. She stood near the window, sipping cider and watching Maddie like a hawk pretending to be a hummingbird. Eventually, Maddie gathered the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," she said, smiling. "This cabin has meant so much to us over the years. So many memories. We're just thrilled to share it with friends." I stepped forward. "Actually," I said, "this will be the last time." Maddie blinked. I clicked the projector. Slide 1. Legacy, a Sullivan family cabin, 1962 to 2024. Slide 2. Photos of my grandfather building the cabin by hand. Slide 3. Ski passes logged by year, mine and hers. The early days. The honest days. Slide 4. Recent logs. 2 passes. Overlapping dates. Slide 5. The champagne suite receipt. Slide 6. Eric's name. Gasps in the crowd. Claire didn't move. Maddie tried to speak, but I held up a hand. Slide 7. A closing document. Deed transfer. New owner, Claire DeWitt. Slide 8. A photo of Claire holding the keys, taken the day before. And finally, Slide 9. Enjoy your writing retreat, Maddie. Silence. Then murmurs. Then people began slowly moving out. Not loudly, not angrily. Just with discomfort. Like they'd accidentally walked into the wrong funeral. Claire approached Maddie at the doorway. She didn't slap her. She didn't yell. She just said, "I hope the sheets were clean," and walked out. Maddie stood there, motionless. She didn't even notice when I unplugged the projector and walked away. I didn't look back. The snow was heavier now, and for once, I welcomed it. Each flake felt like a small erasure of her lies, her manipulation, her grasp on my life. As I pulled onto the main road, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The cabin lights flickered behind me, then disappeared completely. I didn't expect to hear from her again. Not after that night. Not after the projection. Not after I handed the cabin keys to the woman she betrayed. But 3 days later, as if time hadn't passed at all, Maddie sent me an email. Not a text. Not a call. An email. Subject line, really? I didn't open it. Didn't need to. Because what do people like Maddie say when they've lost control? They don't apologize. They don't ask what went wrong. They just try to make you feel bad for noticing. The aftermath unfolded quietly, like snow melting from a roof in spring. HOA called to discuss the incident. I told them the incident was already addressed and recorded, and that my name was no longer on the deed. Claire handled the rest. Word spread fast, though. By the end of the week, Eric had been asked to step down from 2 nonprofit boards he chaired. Apparently, community trust matters when you've been sneaking into someone else's cabin during married weekends. Claire? She filed for divorce by Monday. And me? I went skiing. Not at our mountain. Somewhere new. Different snow. Different faces. No history clinging to the lift cables or lodge walls. Just me, fresh powder, and a sunrise that didn't remind me of anything painful. I stayed at a cheap rental with no smart locks, no logs, no ring cameras. Just a door. And peace behind it. There was one thing left to do. One piece of closure I hadn't touched yet. It was buried in a fireproof lockbox in the guest bedroom closet of my old place. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside, letters, photos, scraps from the early days. Back when Maddie used to write notes and tuck them into my books. Back when we shared ski lifts in silence, smiling for no reason. And in the bottom of the box, a USB. Not labeled, not forgotten, just delayed. I plugged it into my laptop and waited. The screen filled with folders, backups from our shared photo account. Before cloud syncing. Before facial recognition. Just raw, unfiltered data. I clicked through. Photos of trips, dinners, ski days, anniversaries. And then I found a video. One I didn't remember filming. It was dated before the lodge incident, before the champagne suite, before the past logs. The thumbnail showed Maddie, laughing in the back of our cabin, wine glass in hand, her eyes glancing at someone off camera. I hit play. She was tipsy, giggling, and she turned to whoever was behind the camera and said, "If Eric's wife ever finds out, we'll just say we were planning a surprise party." Then she winked and kissed whoever was holding the lens. It wasn't me. It was him. I sat there for a long time. Not angry, just stunned. All the math I'd done, all the detective work, the logs, the receipts, the passes, it had all been redundant. The truth had always been there, hiding in a forgotten file, untouched, uncaring. I didn't forward the video, didn't leak it, didn't send it to the board or her parents or her college alumni group. I just deleted it because I didn't need it anymore. The story was over. That spring, I put my old house on the market. Got a good offer. Clean. No drama. I moved to a new place, small, quiet, walkable. No mountain views. No ski pass scanner. Just a porch, a sturdy chair, and a garden Maddie would have called too rustic. And that's exactly why I liked it. People always ask what closure feels like. They want it to be dramatic. A confrontation. A scream. A door slamming shut while violins swell in the background. But real closure? It's boring. It's unceremonious. It's walking past a hoodie in your closet and not remembering who gave it to you. It's opening the mail and not bracing for her handwriting. It's a Sunday morning where you don't have to pretend to be okay. One day, months later, I ran into Claire. She looked free. Not happy exactly, but unburdened. We talked for a bit. Nothing heavy, just catching up. And as we parted ways, she turned back and said, "Thanks for the cabin. I kept the wine fridge." I smiled. "You earned it." And that was it. That was the end. Not a cliffhanger. Not a twist. Just freedom. Just a man, a ski pass, a lie. And the cold, clean clarity of walking away. Subscribe to the channel